management information system, as we all have seen, is an interconnection of three basic concepts, that of management, information and system. Obviously, just understanding these three concepts are not enough. We have to also understand how these really combine together to make an information system. However, we have already seen the impact of information, I mean what is information and its impact on management, uh, not from the concept of information point of view. Now today let us try to see that if we have an information system in a particular organization, what is its impact on the management process. So let us begin today a new concept called information system, or in short IS, impact on management. Now we can see that the impact, first let us see the basic idea of what is information once again. So information is resource for decision making and for building competitive enterprises used for management effectiveness. Once again stressing on the fact that information should help in decision making, information should help us in building a competitive enterprise and for management effectiveness, so that the management can actually carry out its activity in the most effective manner. Now management has got different functions like administrative, leadership, conceptual thinking and so on. So let us see various things. The first one is the cognitive style. The cognitive styles are different for different management personnel. Information system development should take this fact into account. We shall later on see how the difference in cognitive style makes a different impact of information system on different management personnel. We shall see that later, but at this point let us see the various waves of age and how management has reacted to the different information ages, different ages. Now we can broadly divide the information age into three waves as per Alfred Toffler. As Toffler have said, in the first wave, that is from 8000 BC to about 1700 AD, can be broadly classified as agricultural age. Now in the agricultural age, information did not play a major role, and essentially we have seen that during the first wave really the information systems were not at all in place. In the second wave, that is in the industrial age, we have the use of energy, use of machinery. So whenever you have to have the use of energy and machinery, naturally information has played an important role, but not so much as in the third wave, which we can actually define as an information age. Let us see a little bit in some more detail some characteristics of the second wave, that is the industrial age. In the industrial age, broadly we have seen it was more of a bureaucratic kind of management system, a hierarchical management style, that means a vertical organization where the line plays a major role. That is, you have like a military organization, you have a very defined line of command. Standardization, specialization and synchronization plays a big role. Then concentration, maximization and centralization. So the power, because if you have an hierarchical structure, that means ultimately everything moves towards a single top, as if in a line, right. So naturally the power will be concentrated, the optimization will be that of maximization, and definitely centralizations. The decentralization does not play a big role. Then order, discipline and an assembly line mindset, right? That is what used to uh, play a big role. So usually in the industrial age, we have seen massive organizations, very large organizations, and these very large organizations, they are playing a very big role with a very smooth line of command and standardized products. So it's a massive unit, and you have what you call as economies of scale, right? When you produce in large scale mass production, then the product becomes more viable, and it does that much better in the market. So that is what happened in the second wave. And in the with this specific thing that is we have seen in the second wave, let us see how things have changed in the third wave where we are. Basically, Toffler has identified 4 types of industries in the technosphere: the space industries, the oceans, the biological industry, and electronics and computer. According to him, these are the 4 different what do you call industries, which are the industries of the future. But that's not so important. What is more important is in the infosphere, as described by Toffler, what are the things that are going to happen. Some of the things, information would be demassified, local or regional newspapers, cable or television would be a reality, because ultimately people want, although the global concept is very important, but every organization or every person ultimately has to act locally. So think globally and act locally, and if you have to act locally, you have to understand, or you have to obtain the local scenario. So therefore, people would be more concerned about their immediate environment. So there will be local or regional newspapers, cable, televisions. Then there will be personalized information system, CBIS for business, and then working hours accordingly, because it is like, you are carrying your office in your head. So if that happens, there is no need for you to be tied down in your office until unless you are a manual worker. If you are a person who are not working manually, basically a white collar job, essentially you are working through information processing, passing information, uh, processing information in various ways. So if that is what you are essentially doing, it is not necessary to be tied down to a physical position. So you can actually work from anywhere. So you can actually work from home as well. So there could be flexibility in working hours, there could be diversity in the compensation, the pay packets can be different for different people. Personalization is possible. The management style will be more of participative matrix kind of organization, and there will be major shifts in the third wave thinking, that of decentralization. The standardization may not be so important anymore. The variety of the product could actually increase tremendously. So all these things could be a reality. Broad differences here, it is identified between second wave and the third wave. You can see that in the second wave we have the group ethic, more of group thinking, whereas third wave the individual choice. Second wave centralization, third wave decentralization. Large scale versus divide and conquer. Then analysis versus synthesis, structured versus flexible, take time versus real time. So essentially, if you have information quickly, then you can personalize, using information you can increase variety, you can think of product, you can think of more personalization, you can use information for a competitive advantage, because ultimately if you let us say, if you have a product which is let us say shoes, take a beautiful example of shoes, because although we buy ready made shoes, but essentially we all feel that if the shoe would have been slightly different, if you would have fitted me better, I would have felt more comfortable. Why not the shape becomes little bit this way, that way. However, this personalization may not be possible because of mass production of shoes. And again you see that if mass production is not there, the companies would not be able to make profits. So how you can bring in mass production as well as personalization? See, this is where the challenge is, and this is possible through quick collection of information, collection of individual data, grouping them together, and then decentralizing the production. Again, naturally, if a person is not very uncommon, there will be many like them, and you can actually do a certain amount of personalization if that is done through quick information processing, information collection, and resulting physical system to work in the most efficient manner and effective manner. Then we see that executives should therefore be electronically aided. Now essentially two information systems, as we have already identified, are very important here. For administrative and leadership support, there should be office automation, and for conceptual thinking support, there should be executive support system. So office automation as well as executive support system should play a very big role to electronically aid the executives. So what should be the requirements? Let us see. For office automation, there should be word processing, and we know that 30% of all managers' jobs are essentially administrative. So basically there should be reduction of administrative delays that should free the manager for conceptual thinking. There should be communication, the email, schedules, memos, then there should be tele-video conference, the facility for fax, voicemail, electronic cottage. So all these various facilities you can actually give through the office automation. In other words, all the administrative delays can, how can information system cut all these administrative delays through various methods by which this is possible. So this is essentially in the domain of office automation. Alright, so it's all administrative support, and how these kind of different information system helps in cutting down administrative delays. The executive support system, on the other hand, can help in obtaining, let us say, production status quickly, electronic presentation systems focused at the senior management levels, right. So executive support system, as I had given an example in our earlier discussions, that it should be having the complete information technology support of the company at the boardroom level, right. So if the top executives are sitting at the boardroom, then how can the complete information system, including all database that is available, the entire information support can be made available through telecommunication networks or through advanced processing at the boardroom. Now for that you may have to build advanced very high what do you call speeds of network speeds, and so that the servers are accessible from the boardroom to the individual company sites. Say for example, the people want to know why the sales are so low in a particular district. So complete information salesman wise to be present at the boardroom then and there. So it requires the online connection to this concerned server immediately, bringing down the information, drill down to that level, and quickly show the summarized report, not the detailed data, but summary, because the boardroom people, they don't have so much time. Then certain executive ESS supports could be in for leadership, for controlling, measuring, reporting, correcting, for directing, that is coordinating, delegating and stimulating, conceptual thinking, in forecasting, in policy development and strategy formulation, in business models on past history, external events, future indicators, then internal transaction data and external data. So, all these different kinds of supports are really possible for executive support systems. Then if we are interested in defining the needs of an executive support system, we need to obtain the so called critical success factors, CSFs. The individual CSFs are collated for to obtain organizational CSFs. The CSF measures are then to be calculated, and using them we have to go for the database and the ESS. So, if say from every organizational unit they have to identify what are their critical success factors. So, if these critical success factors can be obtained and we could collate them all, we get what is known as organizational critical success factors. And these critical success factors, if we actually put everything together, we know that what are the needs, what kind of information support we actually require in the form of executive support systems and databases, that would be vital or very important for the organization to succeed. So, how to discover critical success factors? Some of the very important questions are here. Who are you? What do you do? What is important to be successful? What information do you need? What difficulties do you have obtaining it? What would be benefits if you get it? And what are your future information system needs? Right. So, these are all series of questions: who, what information, what difficulties, what benefits and what IS needs. Right. So, if these questions are answered by executives across the organization and the organizational units, they can discover the critical success factors for the information system which we would like to develop. Some of the ESS application examples, basically sometimes the ESS applications are what if, that means what if this happens, then this may take place. So, some examples from financial, like monitor profitability, analyze expenses, obtain revenue breakdown, region wise, division wise, department wise, product wise. So, how revenue can be broken down region wise, division wise, department wise or product wise. Then examples from marketing, that is market share, customer base, product popularity. So, all these things can also be obtained. Then operational, that is productivity, production rate, risks. Then human resource, succession planning, skill and experience base. All these things can actually be obtained. So, these are in the domain of executive support system, but basic idea you must know that it should help in strategic decision making. As we all seen that strategic decision making is very different from operational decision making. The basic idea is not to have a smooth flow of operations, not really day to day activity. For example, when we are doing say monitoring profitability, we are, our purpose is not to see how do the company does a better profit in the immediate quarter or the immediate year which is running. That is the job of the operational managers. For the strategic managers or the top level managers, they have to identify profitability, they have to identify how profitability is varying over the years, find out the causes not only within the organization, but also outside the organization, the market, the competitors, compare the all the gathered information, and obtain policy guidelines for the future, the strategic future. It's not really for immediate 6 months or 1 year or short term, no, not really. It should be for long term considerations. So that is the focus area of executive support systems. Then some of the other examples, that is say competitive, like competitors financial performance, product mix, then external factors like interest rates, government regulations, economy, industry trends. So all these things can also be obtained. Then benefits and beneficiary, the benefits could be efficiency, effectiveness, transformation, and beneficiary could be individual, functional units, organizations, right. So all these various factors, benefits, beneficiary should be kept in mind, and accordingly the application should be built. Then let us see some of the effects, the management and cognitive style. The managers are computer users or managers depending on support people. So see, it's a very important question with regard to information system. Whenever we have, let us say, thinking of a particular manager, will he process information himself directly, or will he depend on the support people to provide information to him, and he accepts as he is given? Now this is a very important question, because depending on that, the higher level, because if you think of building transaction processing systems, they are independent of the manager's choice, because manager doesn't even come there, they are all operational support systems. But management information system, the decision support system, or executive support system, or even office automation system, here the manager plays a very big role. We have to understand what the manager wants, right. So it depends on what is the cognitive style of the manager. Is he a left brain person or is he a right brain person? We shall discuss these in detail slightly later. Now let us see some of the simple models. One model of manager is what is the so called MINTZBERG model. The MINTZBERG model essentially says the managers are relentless, they need brevity, variety and discontinuity. Brevity means conciseness. Dislike reflective activities, do not like to reflect on, are superficial and overloaded, encourage interruptions, make decisions in small increments, and do things in an abrupt manner. So this is how what MINTZBERG found in his famous studies, that they require a variety of information, but they work in short bursts. If you give them the entire information at one go, that may not be the right thing. They would encourage interruptions, and they make decisions in small increments, and do things in an abrupt manner. So that is one kind of model. Then the HENEMAN model, who was the CEO of Northwest Industry, he was very different, because he used the personal computer himself, and instead of models he used to study the actual data. So by looking at the actual data, he used to find out the patterns in the data, right. So used to find the patterns in the data, and these patterns of the data he used to use really to obtain the specific conclusions, so, and from which he used to make his decisions. So because of that, he was able to ask the right questions and to know the wrong answers, right. So that's the thing, that instead, so essentially what are the options, what are the other options? The other option is that there are information support people who makes models on the raw data and presents output which is obtained by processing these input data. So essentially the most managers or most chief executive officers, they see output from an information system which is definitely not raw data, which is processed information, but these processing may sometime be done with the help of models which might hide a number of assumptions. So suppose all these projections that the company would do very well, it will grow at a tremendous pace at 10 to 15% per year. All these projections have got a number of hidden assumptions, and the input data, the raw data, has been processed in a particular manner. All right. So one has to understand these to really depend on the information system outputs, particularly MIS and DSS outputs, uh, carefully. I mean, we have to be very careful about interpreting the outputs that we get out of the systems. Basically, understand that what is the model used and what is the assumption. So the right brain people, sometimes they would like to see the patterns of data instead of the model, and make their own conclusions. That means they use their own mental models rather than use the models which are specifically used by analysts. So these are some of the cognitive styles. There are various kinds of intelligence patterns, like we have the linguistic intelligence pattern, the musical, logical mathematical, spatial, bodily kinesthetic, and personal, right. So there are various intelligence patterns according to the cognitive style, and usually when we think of a person, the person may fall in one or more of these intelligence patterns. Linguistic means the person or the manager concerned is they are quick at verbal abilities, the multilingual abilities. The musical, the people, they are more into the rhythmic, they like rhythm in their work. Logical mathematical, they would like more of analysis, more of left brain type. The spatial, they can see things, they can high imagination, they could see things in space. That means the if something is a pattern can be visualized very easily. Then bodily kinesthetic we will discuss. The personal, that means the specific to the given person. The personal intelligence allows one to be in touch with one's own internal feelings, as well as notice and distinguish motivations and intentions in others. Then we see that some of the things, some specific difference between, I mean, what happens in cognitive style depending on the intelligence pattern versus computer learning techniques. So logical, mathematical, and musical people, they are more interested in programmed instructions. So they are basically more analytic in mind, and they want the output of computer models rather than raw data itself. The linguistic people, they are more interested, or they will be better off if they get written documentation. The spatial people, if the overall picture is shared first and various tasks are overviewed, right, that is the property, or that is how the spatial people go about. Then bodily kinesthetic, hands on, do it yourself, trial error, right. So these are the people who are not so much bothered about the language models, and more of what do you call, the mental things. They are more into the trial error, let's do it, right. They are more of hands on, do it yourself. So actually less word and more work, that is the kind of philosophy for the people with an intelligence pattern of bodily kinesthetic. And then personal, which are more of personal. They have to obtain their information more personalized, individual, one-on-one instruction. So that sort of mindset. Now, why we are discussing this? The basic idea is that whenever we are talking about management information system, and if you recall, we have already said that ultimately the management information system depends on the kind of structure, the information architecture that is present in the organization. And these information architecture may actually be totally changed if the power structure of the company changes, right? So it is not advisable to ask a question, why should a particular manager is getting a particular information. It's not really, it should begin there. It should begin what a manager is performing, what is his interest area, what is he overseeing. Now, what a manager, whether you call him a financial manager or any manager, personnel manager, what is his work area, it can be redefined if there is a change in the power structure of the company. If tomorrow somebody else becomes finance manager, he may see something more or something less than the previous finance manager, and he may be a different kind of a person. If the previous finance manager was a person of logical mathematical intelligence pattern, and the new financial manager is more bodily kinesthetic, you can see that you being in the information support department or in the MIS department, your role should also change. Your role should also change. He will be not so much interested in analytical models. He would like to say, okay, fine, these are your this thing. You simulate and show me what will happen, or allow me to play with it, right? So you have given me something, let me enter something and see what happens, or let us implement this and in a small scale and see what is the result. So you see that the way he would look at it, his scope of work, everything will vary depending on the cognitive style of the manager, and also definitely apart from cognitive style, other considerations, what is his concern, what is the set of activities that he would like to concentrate on. So all these things are going to be important depending on the cognitive style. Now, let us see. So, since the cognitive style we are discussing, a very related and important area is human as information processor. So, apart from manager, I mean definitely manager is a human. So, here what we would like to really concentrate on is that if people process information, then obviously they are bound by a number of things, like there is a lot of things which will lead to a kind of bounded rationality. What are those factors? And if those are the factors, what are the impacts of those factors on the development of information system? So here we are, just like computers process information, human also process information. That is the first thing. Then, however, there are certain peculiarities of human as information processor, such as limits to human short-term memory, cognitive styles, individual differences, and so on. So there are number of limits that are actually applicable to human as information processor. Then these peculiarities are important because information systems are meant for human, right? So every manager processes information and are therefore prey to these peculiarities. Now let us see what are these peculiarities that we are talking of. Some of these important characteristics we have noted here: the magical number 7 plus minus 2, this is a limit to the human short term memory. Just noticeable differences, that means what is the difference between various outputs or inputs or reports or queries which is just noticeable. Then human as intuitive statisticians. What are the limits of human as statisticians? Concreteness. If concrete information is given to person, does he take better decision? Anchoring and adjustment, we know that this is a descriptive kind of method that are usually followed by people. Cognitive style, right brain versus left brain. Learning theory, uh, that is we shall discuss. The feedback, what kind of feedback is required when people are processing information system. If there is no feedback, what happens? Then value of unused data, sometimes to make people more confident we require more unused data. Information overload, what happens if there is too much information. Individual differences between people. Non-verbal input, because information system can only give written answer to the queries and requests for reports, but there is lot of non-verbal input, for example body language, those are missing. What is their effect? Then processing time, if the processing time is more, what happens? Amount of information compression, how much filtering we should really carry out. So these are some of the very important factors which are the characteristics of human as information processor. Let us discuss them in some detail. Each of the characteristics of human as information processor has a bearing on the information system architecture of an organization. The characteristics and their effects are discussed in the next few slides, right? So they have important bearing. What are those? Let us see. So to begin with, let us start with the first one, that is the magical number 7 plus minus 2. The human short-term memory can hold and process effectively 5 to 9 symbols or chunks, right? So that means, see, it is unlike the usually when we talk about human memory, we should understand that there are three components of human memory as per the Newell-Simon model. There is the long-term memory, there is a short-term memory, and there is also the unconscious. Basically, the unconscious is that where essentially it's more of undefined, and that is essentially we know little about. So that is because of the unconscious only we have so much of information which we apparently think we have forgotten, but it is still there. But long term memory is that memory which we actually put in our mind, and through a recalling process we can obtain the thing which you have already memorized. There is also a fourth type that is known as external memory. That is basically suppose if we, for example, in this particular example, whatever we are seeing in the computer is an external memory to me. So something like, so when I see that magical number 7 plus minus 2, this particular word on computer screen, I can recall kind of things which are already known by me. So it is also an aid, it is also a kind of memory. So written words in board, chalkboard, computer screen, written document can be called as a kind of external memory. So we have the long term memory, we have the external memory, we have the consciousness, unconscious, and we also have the short term memory. Short term memory can be said something like the computer's RAM, random access memory. So the hard disk is more like a long term memory, but in the case of people, the short term memory is really very short. It is just 5 to 9 symbols. So that means if you just tell somebody a telephone number, and if this telephone number is quite large, the person may not be able to remember this afterwards. So suppose you tell somebody this is a telephone number some 8-digit telephone number, you go to the next room and tell somebody. Most likely he will be able to tell. But if I ask him the next day, what was the telephone number I told you yesterday? Most likely he will not be able to answer. So this can be defined as a short-term memory. So this is limited. But limited here, this is very interesting, that symbol or chunk is a very interesting thing. The chunk may be a digit, an alphabet, or even a complete graph. So it depends on how you make this as a chunk. Suppose I tell you a number that is 22451345, all right, 22451345. Now these 8-digit number can be called 8 different digits. So it could appear as 8 chunks, right? But it may so happen that 2245 is your vehicle number and 1345 is one part of your telephone number. So if that happens, then for you it is basically 2 chunks and not really 1 chunk. If you know those number segments well and you can associate with them to something else, probably they can appear as 2 chunks. And to somebody else, again, the entire number can appear as a only 1 chunk. So therefore you can see that there is although the human short term memory is highly limited between 5 to 9 symbols, but again the what is that symbol, if it is already associated, then the size could be really very large. But however, keeping this in mind, we can say that while we design information system, we should see that codes for human use should not exceed 5 to 7 symbols. System should not have humans do significant unaided processing, and graphics may be used to present chunks of data in an efficient way. So if we can use a graph instead of let us say some numbers, probably the people would be able to memorize in a better manner. Then the concept of just noticeable difference. The just noticeable difference, basically the idea is that difference that is noticeable is a constant proportion of physical dimension of the stimulus. Exactly what it means, let us try to see through an example. Anyhow, we'll see that the just noticeable difference, the basic idea, let us say if we take let us say the 2 sizes, suppose we want to differentiate between 2 font sizes, right? Let us say one font size is 24 and another font size is 26. Now, are they significantly different? In the sense, can a person, if they sees a particular write-up and this is basically in 26 font, suddenly one font is 24, will he be able to recognize? Now, this is something very interesting, and it has been found out that whenever we are having a particular kind of situation, we see that essentially it is said that delta C by C is a constant, where C is a criteria. Suppose the criteria is the font size. So what is the just noticeable difference? Suppose just noticeable difference is let us say a ratio which is let us say say 0.5 0.2. Let us say 0.2 suppose is a particular thing which is can be defined as delta C by C. So if C is a 24 font or 26 font, then 26 into 0.2, which is 5.2. That is our delta C. So delta C by C is 0.2. suppose we say that it is a constant according to the just noticeable difference, and if C is 26, then naturally delta C comes out to be 5.2. So this basically says that if we have to differentiate between two different fonts, then there should be a difference of about 5.2, between the two, right. So that means 26, say if we round it off to 6, then we should have either 20 or 32 as the next font if the ratio is 0.2. But this 6 difference should not be taken again. Let us say the size is instead of 26, 52 or 50, because if it is 50, it should not be between 44 and 56, because again going by the criteria, if C is 50 and if delta C taking the ratio as 0.2, it will be 10. Say 50 into 0.2, that is 10. That means the size now should vary between 40 and 60 and not from really 44 and 56. So therefore, the system should highlight significant differences rather than assuming human will notice them. So this will tell that when we are presenting information, what should be the differences between one font and the other, or the thickness of a graph to another thickness, anything, any other that is important in this case, what should be the difference that should basically highlight this particular thing. So now another thing is human as intuitive statistician. Deficiencies observed are lack of intuitive understanding of the impact of sample size on the sample variance, lack of intuitive ability to identify correlation and causality, biasing heuristics for probability estimation, lack of capability for integrating information. So we can see that the first one, lack of intuitive understanding of the impact of sample size on sample variance. So as I have given an example earlier, that suppose you toss a coin and 2 times it has come as heads. So therefore, to conclude that if I toss this coin it will always come as head is really not true. It is not true because although 2 times we have got head, but our sample size is only 2. What about variance of the result that it is head both the times? The variance will be quite high, right. So this human being cannot identify this, that although we have got 2 times head, but the conclusion drawn from this, because the probability is somewhere around 0.5, will be difficult for a person to understand. Lack of intuitive ability to identify correlation and causality, right. It is like there is a lot of rain in Siberia, or there is lot of snow in Siberia, and because of this we are not going to have too much cold this time. You know, this kind of correlation may not be a very proper one, right. To identify that as a causal connection probably is not going to be true, right. Then biasing heuristics for probability estimation. Sometimes what happens that we estimate probability on the basis of too few a trial, and we go for approximations, right. So like we toss a coin 4 times and we say 75% it comes out to be head. Lack of capability for integrating information. This is also human deficiency, definitely. That is, we are seeing certain facts, and but to put it together, integrate them, synthesize them, this is the capability we all lack. Unfortunately, what happens, most of us through our education we have become too analytical. If there is a problem, we are able to solve it, but if there is no problem, if our purpose is to construct the problem, see, if you go to an organization, nobody will tell you that this organization needs to prosper. The organization has a problem, it has to be solved. if it is known that yes, this organization is going to be sick, let's do something about it, probably you know, okay, let us analyze. But you go to an organization, you will not understand that this organization is going to be sick, that there is a problem, nobody will agree. So to construct that problem, that is I think a bigger challenge than solving the problem, right? So construction of a problem is also a very important thing, and unfortunately people do not have that capability inherent. Some people definitely have, they have the vision, but it is not a general phenomena. So what should be done about it? What we should do is that information system should provide statistical analysis of data. There should be sample variance, correlation, probability estimates, etc. should be available. Then decision algorithms should provide a consistency check of various information sources. Data generation procedures should be designed to assist in eliminating bias such as recency of events, right? So therefore the information system should provide statistical analysis of data, sample variance, correlation, probability estimates, etc. Once again, the decision algorithm should provide consistency check of various information sources, and finally the data generation procedures should be designed to assist in eliminating bias such as the recency of events. Then thereafter let us see the concreteness. The concreteness is essentially, the idea is that decision makers tend to use information that is readily available and only in the form in which it is displayed. So the people usually rely on concrete observable characteristics of evidence and neglect other information related to the process, right? So the basic idea of concreteness of information is that people tend to depend on information that is readily available. So let us say we are doing an analysis of, let us say, why the sales is not that good in a particular area. See, the basic idea here is one of mindset, that people are not really have changed their traditional mindset, and it's a modern product, and therefore this particular product has not found acceptance due to whatever reason. But this is not what you will immediately get as information or data. If you talk to people, the readily available data could be that of money, that of incomes, salaries, the preferences, price of the product. So it may appear to you that really the people, they, because they do not have too much money to spend, or because the price is probably too high, that is why people are really not going for this particular product, right? So that is the effect of concreteness. So what should be done? The information needed should be presented in the form needed. No added processing should be required, right? So this is sometimes important. If information is collected in a particular form, give information present in that form, and do not process to really convert them to money or some other variables which are more quantitative rather than qualitative. These may actually cut down a lot of information and can actually put it as a bias to the decision makers. So thank you very much. We stop here today. In our next lecture we continue from this point.